Yo, it's Corin DuBose again, man. And so, don't mention the reptiles. You see the title. I'm gonna get straight into it because I have the tendency to deviate off point whenever I'm talking about something. Once again, I am a targeted individual, and I am using my music as a distraction in the background. So there's Bell Rock music that you hear playing in the background. It's my music basically, you know. But so as to go ahead and get into things and not deviate, I will actually begin by doing the exact opposite and deviate. Lately, I've been hearing this talk about what's happening to Antarctica, and basically from what I've gathered over the last several days to a week is that Antarctica has been frozen under ice for so long that the entire continent is under pressure. So you can imagine what they were talking about, and the mysterious thing is obviously whoever's talking in my head, and it's no guarantee that they're the people that are actually targeting me, but they could be random people who know that this is happening. But there's been talk inside of my ear about Antarctica being under so much pressure, and it, from the ice and being frozen, that the pressure is actually weighing the entire continent down, and the continent might actually be having a opposite effect, an opposite physical effect. So when you push on something long enough, eventually it's got to push back up. And last time I checked, the Earth's core or inner mass does consist of some layers of fluid. So you push down on fluid, eventually fluid's gonna push back up. So you can imagine magma, hot water, subterranean oceans, and all this other stuff that they've been talking about recently, sitting up under that landmass we call Antarctica, which they think now is possibly two land masses, two separate continents making up what we call Antarctica, which by the way is frozen on a massive ice sheet. And some people believe that the Earth is flat and some more stuff and all that crap right there. But I actually, I'm not getting into that because that is deviating. Don't know if the Earth is flat. Personally, don't really care about that. But Antarctica is what it is from what we all understand. And if it's true that ice is being forced upward, it's gonna crack. And once that ice starts cracking, that means the ice is gonna fall into the oceans. And I don't mean like chunk by chunk. Pretty soon it's gonna get to a point where the ice is like a zipper. It's gonna rip, and to where everything's exposed that's underneath that ice. And you gotta imagine where's the fly gonna go? It's gonna go in two separate directions like a pair of wings does the fly. It's gonna dump into the ocean and force when you put ice cubes into a cup of water, it raises the volume of the water that's already in the cup. You know what I'm saying? Why is that? Because you just added more mass to the matter that's already in the cup. So naturally, the volume's gonna increase in proportion to the weight of that mass, which of course is partially frozen in ice cubes. So imagine that there's these two huge hunks of ice shelves just slide apart into the ocean. It's gonna raise sea levels worldwide. Who knows how long it could take in order for the complete process to happen, but I can imagine such a process happening at all. It has multiple reasons as to why it would happen in the first place. That is geological change, climate change, which would actually be more of a side effect rather than the cause. So you got to say it's probably more of a solar event, something that's solar system wide that's causing it. And I've got some verification from the spirit world. It's not very hope bringing or uplifting verification, because when I say spirits, my mother still talks to me, even though she's deceased. And not only that, I'm also a contactee, which I will go ahead and admit because I've been dodging around it somewhatish. And yes, I am a contactee, but I'm uncomfortable with the idea. But from what I'm getting from them, it's what everything I'm hearing is true. I know that sounds like rubbish right now, so I'm gonna go ahead and get off what I'm saying, back onto what I'm saying. But what I'm supposed to be saying. Don't mention the reptiles. But basically what's going on is, from what I'm getting from the spirit world, is that this is finna be allowed to happen because we are not exactly a good generation, and I think I'll leave it at that. It's kind of not God doing it, or like I'm gonna pull the plug and make this happen to everybody. It's more like this happens anyway. It's kind of the planet we live on, but everybody's gonna show their true colors if the sea levels rise by 100 feet, over the next 3 months, So, hey, I'm not saying there's a timeline, but think about it, If we knew that the sea levels were gradually rising because Antarctica was melting, I think the world would change a lot quicker than them pointing Ronald Reagan's SDI at random American citizens to stop them from mentioning the reptiles, which I'll go ahead and do. So I'm gonna start back in 1983, which is the year I was born in Montgomery, Alabama, and over the years I had a habit of having weird dreams, and probably way weirder than average dreams. Starting back in a place we just simply call Duncan Drive. That's the only thing I remember it as. The Duncan Drive was an apartment complex, small apartment complex, but the only thing I remember it as is Duncan Drive. So the weirdest event that I had happen out there years ago was I say one of the weirdest events. Basically what happened was I remember waking up at some point during the day. To me, I was a child. I wasn't too bright at that time because I was a very small child, probably no more than 2 years old, if not younger. And now this is not in 1983. This is probably when I was old enough to stand up on my own without help, and I probably couldn't talk either. But I do have memories from that time period when I was just looking at everybody and staring, but really couldn't talk. But those memories include one event when I woke up in the middle of the day and walked outside, and what I was looking for my father and my mother or whatever, my siblings that I was aware of. I was basically looking for features, I walked outside. I was a little bitty toddler. So the only thing I knew how to do is look for where they would possibly be. So when I went looking for them, I didn't actually see them. I walked behind the apartment building and I headed towards the fence. But when I got to the fence, I immediately experienced a time lapse. It didn't feel right. I know it doesn't make sense to you when I say it, but I'll say it. When I walked back there, I walked to this ditch near the fence that kind of separates the Duncan Drive from the rest of Ridgecrest, or what that part of Ridgecrest behind it, if that's even considered Ridgecrest. But that's a neighborhood anyway. Not important to people not in Montgomery. At any rate, when I got to the fence, I remember staring at the fence, and I was wondering, where my family was. I wasn't terrified, and I just thought I was gonna run outside and start playing and chasing behind them or seeing what they were up to. What actually happened was I experienced a time lapse. I remember staring at the fence, and I remember time turning dark while I was staring. And part of that time while I was turning dark, I remember purple lights coming from above the apartment and around the corners of the apartment to the exact spot I was already standing in, but it was carrying me, and it had become dark already. But when I came through, because apparently I was incoherent, but when I came through, I remember my older brother and my father calling my name. Corey, why the hell you been at? you know, man, what that boy go? Man, where that boy been? Well, some purple lights landed me, dude. I know it sounds like I'm lying. It's a vague memory, so I'm gonna skip past that. But that was just one of the weird things I would have happen. Also in Duncan Drive, I had this other weird dream, which was a recurring dream that, I mean, I don't want to delve off point too much. I had this dream that for some reason I originally was living somewhere that was like a stone slab civilization. That's the best way I can describe it. It was like a stone slab civilization. I remember gray stones everywhere. Big gray stones. Some of them were knocked over, and I remember water rose in the background. Not like it was like water just rose in the back. It felt funny like there was water everywhere. Like, and the water was kind of like very like plastic looking. You kind of like serene, kind of like not, but it was everywhere, like in all directions you look. And in this dream, I got the impression that a long time ago, this world ended already the way it was. And the people that were here, they were different. They looked like us, but they were taller than us, and there were humans here too. But the people that were taller than us were in charge. And they looked like they were in charge of the stone slab civilization. And for some reason, it came to an end. They were fighting each other. It's a vague memory. I don't want to delve in it too long, but I remember them having aura. They had lights, like magenta and blue light coming out of their flesh or their skin. They were glowing. But they were bald, unlike humans. And it's weird because whenever I have these dreams growing up, I know it's hard to follow me because I kind of like pause and like delve off. But imagine this is the same series of dreams from the same time period in like roughly around 1985, 1986. Still Duncan Drive. I had these weird dreams, and they're recurring dreams. That at first I'd be around these people involved in the stone slab civilization, and there won't be much going on. Except humans would be like souls. We'd be coming out of these like little things. They were like little cubby holes, and like not cubby holes like in some laboratory, but like it was like they built special little houses and huts that only humans could fit in. But to them, they were too small, and it's funny because I remember their legs walking around in the background around me. I remember their legs and their ankles. They kind of funny, man. They walk on their tiptoes more than humans do. They're like cone-headed people, almost kind of like bald people. Not really cone-heads though. Their skulls were shaped different. Their heads were bigger than ours. I feel like I'm delving off, so I'm gonna get back to it. But in that for some reason, it kept showing me that the future would end roughly the same way as the world ended then, but it be by human hands. It showed me that white men. For some reason, it didn't say white men, but it only showed me white men, and like whatever these white men did, they dug something up. Like that, I seen them. They had heavy moving equipment, heavy lifting, digging equipment, dump trucks, and whatever they dug up, it was some type of technology, and I knew that it would only happen in the future. And they were using some type of sophisticated drills to get into the ground. And it was a dream I had back in the 80s. I didn't understand it then as I'm describing it now. So you can imagine I just thought it was monsters. I mean, drills, robots, what's a dump truck to a 3-year-old, 4-year-old, It's a machine what screens people, and it's not from our time period. So it's not one of those like 1980s dump trucks. It's like a 2018 or 2025 dump truck. So like it is in the world, whatever happened, white men were digging shit up, and it led to a war. So I'm assuming it had to be technology. Didn't say it was technology, but they were digging something up that was old, and it led to the destruction. But in between, there's a lot of events that were in my dreams from back then and leading up to now. So I get off the stuff that I vaguely remember because it's gonna start to seem dull. if not already. And I'm not trying to really be so much entertaining as I do want to mention the reptiles and be creepy for a while. So when we moved out of Duncan Drive to this place called Rose Garden, I would have more of these same dreams, but the dreams took on a different light. Instead of me just dozing off and having random dreams that could have been past life memories or just downloads from elsewhere in the universe, or the ether or whatever, I started having recurring dreams that were more vivid. These recurring dreams were accompanied by out-of-body experiences, if you get what I mean. Sometimes which had these pink people with heart-shaped heads, like an upside-down Valentine. Big black eyes, but back then I never paid attention to their eyes and that they were alien looking. I just paid attention to they were shaped like humans, so I assumed that they were naked people. So I used to report there were naked people in the room playing with the artwork we made at school today and stuff like that. You tell your parents that there were people with heart-shaped heads in the room. Run outside and I see my mother talking to her friends in the middle of the night. So it'd be like 8:30. 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and they be sitting out on the stoops and the steps talking. I run outside, Mom, them people in the room again. You know what I'm saying? I was like, Mom, those people are in the room again. You know what I'm saying? This is the projects, man, so don't start thinking it's like friendly, like grandmotherly figures sitting out under the stars, man. It's like, go back in the house. What are you doing outside? Before you get an ass with me. All right, so you don't learn to keep talking about stuff like that to people. Eventually I start seeing ghosts too, so you can imagine I'm not particularly think I'm a psychic. It's creepier than that. I'm not psychically seeing dead people while I'm physically awake. So like I don't want to go to sleep at night because I know when I do, I might pop out of my body and wind up in a place where things are growling at. And not only that, there are pink people walking around who seem to not be at all concerned that there's creepy shit in the background growling and making dragon-like noises. So, if there are astral predators all around, apparently these people know how to avoid them or at least keep them at bay. Maybe they have some type of screen or something. I don't know. But while I was growing up, I'd have dreams associated with this stuff. And as I got older, it seems like they kind of laid off as to me seeing these entities, but I would still have the occasional vision of entities that were not humans. For one instance, in Rose Garden, I saw back in the 80s, one night, as I was, actually it was early one morning, I was waking up and I was in this sleep paralysis state. Looked out the window to this pecan tree that's immediately behind the projects. And there was a lady, an older, light-skinned, like white lady. She had no clothes on. Her upper body was human. Her breasts were exposed. Her hair was all black, long. Her nose was long for a human, not like a witch, but just long, pointed like. Not really like a witch. Ears normal. Looking, I guess. But she had wings on her back, like big black wings, and her feet were shaped like the only thing I could describe is a dragon. And she was staring at me. And while she was staring at me, I heard her communicating at me. So she's just sitting there staring at me and she's communicating psychically with me. But it's almost like she's not really saying anything important, like she's so much interested in me. It's almost like the minute I started staring at her, she became aware that I was staring at her. And it's like staring at her made her know that somebody was looking. I'm going to tell you what got creepy. Now, this lady started walking in the house as I would have more of these dreams growing up. Whoever this she was, she became attracted to me. And I would see more of her. And she didn't do anything too messed up, but sometimes she grabbed my hand at night, like when I'd be in that sleep paralysis state, and I could feel that she had clawed fingernails. But her fingernails were human fingernails. They were woman's fingernails, but they would be clawed. And she's just one of the entities that I encountered while I was growing up. So As frightening as that might sound to some people, the way I'm saying it might make it seem like a washed up person saying. So check this out. I'm still in Rose Garden, and years go by, and not that many, but a few years go by. One night I'm dozing off, back in the 80s when you have when the TV used to go off right after the national anthem, it started buzzing, and it's on like static noise screen, white noise screen. So the TV goes off for the night after the news and stuff wraps up or whatever was on. The national anthem plays and all that. And so I'm dozing off eventually. But it's like the minute I get dozed off, what actually occurs is I go into immediate sleep paralysis. But as I'm in sleep paralysis, I feel a presence walking up the hallway. I don't see it yet, I feel it. And the hallway is pitch black. The only light is this TV screen, and most of the room is black. So and the only light is static noise off the TV screen. The creature gets into the doorway, and I can see it outline, and it's tall, roughly 7-8 feet tall, taller than the doorway. It had to stoop down in order to get into the back room, so it walks into the back room in a stoop down position. And this creature looks like it has on a long robe and what looks like a mitre like thing around its head, almost like what the Pope wears or like what a Shriner wears, but it doesn't have a fez on it, like the fez looking thing on it. And it's shaped like an octagon or a stop sign. It has points on it, like a Marine Corps hat. And he's wearing like but it's not a Marine Corps hat. There's no bill on this thing. You know what I'm saying? It's like something he has on top of his head. He has long, kind of like semi-curly hair on the side of his head, almost like a white person or a European or something. But he has no features that are the same. He's pitch black. I mean, he's black as a PlayStation 3 box. The outer casing of a PlayStation 3, he's jet black. He's jet black. He's just super pure black. He's darker than the actual darkness of the hallway behind him, so I can see him in the dim light of the hallway. So which is virtually no light. It's just a little reflection of the light bouncing off the TV in the walls. So it's that black. It was so dark, like he was sucking the light that was in the environment out of the environment. It was that black. And so I'm scared to look at him, but I can't close my eyes because he's right there. He's in the room now, and he's walking up on me. When he gets all the way up on me, I'm so paralyzed I can't move. So what this thing does, he stops at the edge of the bed, roughly at the corner of the bed, and grabs the bed and wheels it around. He kind of levitates the bed with one hand. And as the bed rises up, the mattress rises up, and it turns me, the portion of the bed I'm sleeping on, towards me. My older brother dozed off next to me. I was a toddler, a very small toddler. Wasn't supposed to be unattended during this time period. My older brother is knocked the hell out, and the mattress is literally levitated in the damn air with the portion that I'm laying on directly towards this being. And as the being leers over me and approaches me and reaches his hand out at me, I notice that his fingers are longer than ours, and his arms are longer than ours. His legs are too long. Everything about him is too big for a human. So he's a giant, pure black. And he reaches out at me, and he's trying to grab me, and my brother's arm moves by itself. It moves by itself. It grabs the edge of the mattress and forces the mattress back into the position it was originally in before the entity walked into the room. And the entity does not go away immediately. What the entity does is it stands straight up in a surprised manner, and it basically retreats out of the room. It retreats, but it retreats in a fashion that is unbelievable. It's not human. It retreated in a fashion that was not human. It just kind of like blinked. It just kind of like reversed out in like a blink of an eye. Reversed out of the room. So that's the end of that one. Not the weirdest thing I would see. I started having past life memory dreams of me being the only person in a body of water, which was everywhere. It was huge, massive body of water. The only thing sticking out of it was something like a big slab of rock. There was a massive slab of rock sticking out of the water, and it was immediately in front of me. When every time I doze off at night, the first thing I would see is my face sinking into this body of water, and me kind of bobbing up and down in this water. And the only thing in front of me would be a murky orange and brown looking skyline, no clouds, and this murky water. It's just murky water. It was almost like a past life dream or something that I didn't remember. But as I would get older, I would see the details of what was under that water. In that dream, under that water were cities that looked like modern cities, which doesn't make sense. The only thing I'd say different was that some of the buildings looked like they were knocked over and turned on their side. So I don't want to go too deep in it, but I kept having the same dreams over and over again. It's almost like, for some reason, when you get into this state, you are more open to suggestions from other beings out there. And for all intents and purposes, those other beings could have been showing me some of the things I was seeing about these past life memories of like what happened before. And some of those dreams would be of me standing on a beach. And on this beach there was always a sunset. It was like at the sunset, and it seemed like something was coming to an end. I don't know. It was weird, man. I felt like it was the first time. Every time I get it, the world felt different. It felt like I was somewhere else. I was somewhere near the ocean. And the way the dream looked, I'd have to say that I was facing eastward. It was the ocean and the sun was sitting, and there were palms, and we were standing back under the palms, and it was shady. It's like everything behind us was like more lush, like a jungle or a rainforest. But immediately from that dream, I would go into a dream of being in one of my uncle's back seat on a day in front of my grandmother's house when it's raining. And it's like that's where I woke up. And it's like I remember coming to and being aware on that day, and it was raining, and that's what got my attention, that it had started pouring down raining. But I was having a past life dream, and every time I doze off, I have past life dreams, and it'd be mainly about the world had flooded. So I guess that's all I can gather from it. So back to don't mention the reptiles. Those entities were in those dreams, and for some reason, those entities seem to operate in the spirit world now. Or maybe maybe that's where they are. I'm saying now, but maybe they can just do that and they can operate here too, but don't want to. So I don't know everything about them, man. I know it's hard to follow me at this point, but I don't like to deviate. I like to kind of dwell on the same topic for a while. So I'm gonna get round to the weirder stuff. So this is getting around the time that we're closer to the 90s, and one of my dreams would be, it's a recurring dream. I'd have it like I had the dream that, in my memory at least 7 times in my life during the late 80s, and the dream would always be the same. Every night I'd get up in the dream, and I'd be taken outside, like not taken by hands, but I'd already be outside. Like it's like I wake up and like feel like I've been taken outside. But once I'm outside, I'd be in a cut inside a rose garden where there's a hill that leads down the street to a laundromat and a tire shop. And it's through a fence, so I'd be already behind the fence, and I'd be standing in this cut by myself, kind of just, staring down the hill. But I'd be encouraged, like psychically, not by words, but I'd be urged on it. It's like I have a urge to walk down this hill, and at the end of the road down there, at the bottom, at the very bottom towards the street, where that road goes out into the intersection. Where it turns into a intersection. And it'd be standing in the middle of the street. There would be this entity. It was purple. I remember his shoulders were broader than a human being's shoulders, and his shoulders seemed to have something like spikes or like knobs or something on it. It's like something, I don't know if he was wearing something or maybe his shoulders were shaped funny, but his shoulders were shaped funny for a human, and his skin color was purple. And I also noticed that his ears were much larger than ours. It's like his ears were much larger than ours, and they went up the side of his head. It was kind of bald-headed, like purple skin. Didn't see the face, but I noticed that his teeth were not like ours either. He had sharp teeth. Teeth shaped like a human's teeth, but his canines were pronounced. Purple skin. Saw him from a distance. He had these things on, like black bracers or like wristbands or gauntlet things on. He had similar thing around his neck, like almost like part of something, like he was wearing this thing around his neck. I don't know. It was unusual for a shirt. Have you paid attention? It almost looks like a scarf or something. It looks like it was made out of leather or something. I mean, have you seen like medieval leather armor when it has the little leather fold that goes all the way around the neck and the back, but it's laying over the sleeves? It was kind of like that without the chainmail or something. It's hard to describe. If you played stuff like Golden Axe, Dungeons and Dragons, seen a lot of medieval knights, it was something like that. It was like he was wearing something like a windbreaker thing, shaped thing or something. But it was like it was made out of leather or something black material that only covered his shoulders and his chest, the top of his chest. It's not a sombrero. It didn't have any pattern. It was black. He had something on his shoulders. I mean, you know what would be a good depiction of what this being looked like? The Ubaid. Have you seen the statues of the Ubaid that were supposedly be from the time period in Iraq before summer in Mesopotamia? There's a time period called the Ubaid culture, and they made these tall-headed sculptures of these like really reptilian or like lizard-shaped looking cone-headed people with these broad shoulders with ornaments and like spike-shaped things on them. And they had these little things like these rows of like stones on these things over their chest. And that's what this creature looked like to me. He was taller than anyone that I know in the family. So, and every time I walk down to the end of this road, he'd be standing there. And this happened like 7 times in a row. When I get down there, it's like he'd pick me up in his arms and he'd bring me up to his face. I never knew what he was doing to me though. It was never anything negative. The thing that frightened me is that, first of all, he wasn't human. He was super fucking tall and he was picking me up. It's like he picked me up and it's like, and he like hold me up to where he could look directly at me. It was like he picked me up like anyone would pick up a baby. Like he wouldn't pick me up like like you picked up like you were rustling someone or like trying to stare them down, like you were shaking someone down or something at the school wall. Like he pick you up like he was cradling a baby, and he kind of look at me. But I wake up as soon as he picked me up. I guess out of fear or being startled by the dream even occurring at all. So this is still in the 80s, early going into the early 90s. Eventually it got to a point where somebody was walking me down the hall at night and moving me around in the house. If I fall asleep on the couch or sitting in an upright position watching TV, and I'm not saying like if your parents do this or if somebody was just told, put everybody to bed. I mean, it's like I wake up and I would feel somebody carrying me that was not human and they were being followed by someone shorter than them. It's like very tall. I mean, whoever this was, they were so tall that my body was literally almost touching the ceiling of my mom's apartment, and this person's head was sticking out of the ceiling, and they were like a spirit. When I noticed, when I looked down out of fear, hoping to get to the floor or whatever, that there were beings shorter than this entity walking next to him. But I never paid attention to what they looked like. I just knew that they were beings that were roughly shaped like humans, didn't have any clothes on, but they were much shorter and they were moving faster than he was. And that's kind of creepy considering they were all moving kind of fast and all kind of ghostly like. So let's go into the 90s. This is gonna creep you out if it does creep you out, if you take my word for it. This is like right before the this is in the 90s, right around the time when they start showing mysteries of the unexplained books. You remember those, like, kind of like encyclopedias of the unexplained that came out way back in like their late 80s, and it was right around the time unsolved mysteries and stuff start coming out. Remember the Outer Limits and all that stuff used to start just getting around the time where they were getting Technicolor and stuff like that, or we were at least watching reruns of it when they were going into Twilight Zone and color and all that shit. So this is that time period. Still having recurring dreams, still having stuff like that happening. But a few years before everybody's favorite sci-fi cult TV show, The X-Files, came out, I had a dream about The X-Files coming out and what was going to happen in the 90s. And this is how the dream occurred. Alright, in the dream, I was outside playing by myself. Right? First, my friends were in the dream. They were walking around and stuff like that. And I noticed my friends, they vanished. All of them vanished. And they were replaced by Mulder and Scully. And this was before Mulder and Scully were on TV. This was before X-Files became an advertisement. Okay, in the dream, Mulder and Scully approached me. And like the wind is blowing really hard. And in the dream, it's like it's blowing in all directions. It's blowing in really directions. I remember Scully's distinct red hair in the dream, and it sounds stupid, but what Mulder and Scully say to me in the dream made no actual sense as a child to me. So they walk up to me and they approach me, and they're kind of cornering me off, and they keep surrounding me and like walking around me in circles, like they're walking around me in circles so I don't run away from them. And Scully's doing the talking. I don't think I remember any of what Mulder was saying, but it seemed like he was backing up everything she would say. But I remember Scully was saying, like, she was like, Corey, in the 90s, the world is going to be shown that how the world is really being run, and there's going to be a lot of stuff that it was like, she didn't say information. She was trying to say it like, she was trying to explain it like she was talking to a child, but she was using an actor that would come out maybe a couple of years later. So Scully's talking to me, and she's like, Corin, she's telling me the truth is going to start coming out, Corin. The planet has been being visited by aliens, and the truth about human origins. And I vaguely remember what all she's saying. She was talking about something about the truth that has to come out about aliens and religion and human origins. And that was the gist of what I got. But she said it would come out during the 90s. And she specifically focused on the 90s. She was warning me that the 90s would be the year that all the truth would come out. And after I have this dream, I'm afraid of them because the dream is weird. So, and they're both wearing trench coats. So I basically run away from Mulder and Scully at this point, and I go back into the house. And when I get back into the house, something odd happens. Instead of me going into the house, the minute I felt like I was going into the house, I was already back in bed, lying down, waking up from a dream. But when I thought I had woke up from a dream, what had actually happened, I had woke up into another dream where my mother had came into the apartment, to the bedroom with a broom, and she had noticed that a alien was laying in the bed next to me, and my siblings had woke up crying about it, but the alien was lying next to me, and the alien looked like an adult, and I was of course still a little child, but the alien looked like it was just lying there like a big brother or something. It was not human. It was pink. It was one of those pink things with black eyes. And you know what it looked like? Even way before, even this is back in like the late 80s. What it looked like was the alien autopsy corpses. It was like one of those pink things from the alien autopsy corpses was laying in the bed next to me, but it wasn't anything sexual or creepy. When I was young, I used to have a morbid fear of going to sleep alone at night. That something was going to take me away, something was going to eat me. A monster was going to come out of the closet and literally fucking kill me. Like, I thought these monsters that were growling in the astral plane when those pink people were not around were going to get me, and they meant business to get me. And if I went to sleep, they would burst out of the closet, the bathroom, out of the kitchen, any corner, and they were going to get me, specifically me. You know, not Hansel and Gretel. The monsters wanted me this time. All right. UFOs came to the hood in the 80s in Montgomery, Alabama. All right, back to the subject. So I'm already next to this creature from Alien Autopsy, and my mother's in the room full force, and she's yelling at this thing like she's talking to a human. Get out of the bed. Get out of my house. I don't want it in my house. Call the police. Somebody call the police. I don't want this thing in my house. You know, so my mama talking like that. Get this thing out my house. And she started hitting it with the broom. And the thing is making noise. It's like a child. Like, it's not crying, but it's like, it's not. It's like my mother can't hurt it. But it's like fending my mother's, swipes off with the broom. Excuse me. It's fending my mother's swipes off with the broom. It's kind of knocking the broom back, but it's not doing so in a manner to be more aggressive with my mother. And the thing became resistant to leaving from around me. So after she stopped swiping it, it just stood there and stared at my mother in like in a defensive position, like, don't hit me anymore. And it starts back paying attention to me. Like, and then it runs around in the room and disappears. It's weird. It runs in a like confused circle in the room, and I remember it disappearing. And I woke up again. So remember, I know I delved off. So remember, I'm in the one dream. Mulder and Scully's talking to me. I wake up from that dream immediately into another dream where I'm already sitting next to this alien autopsy creature. After that happens, I wake up and nothing's going on. My mother is not in the room. My siblings are not awake. The room's the exact same, and it's just as dark. But I'll tell you what happened later on during those time periods. So this is getting towards the end of my time out there in Rose Garden, which was creepy. Recurring dreams. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and have astral out-of-body experiences, which I'll talk about now. Out-of-body experiences, which basically entail me flying around the entire neighborhood. You know, and sometimes some of the old people would be there. Like, they would, I don't want to say her name because of the family, but there was an older woman that liked to sit in the corner of the complex that would be there in some of those dreams. And sometimes it seemed like it was only her that would be there. Sometimes it would be other older people, but they would only be females. There was another lady, but I don't remember exactly who she was. She used to wear a hair net-like thing all the time. Older black lady. But there was two of these ladies like that. But whenever they see me, they just tell me, Corey, go back in the house. Well, what you doing outside? And sometimes I see winos when I was out of my body, and they'd be sitting on the corner, like on the side of the street, under the street lights next to the liquor store, still drinking. And they would say weird stuff like, who's son that is? Who look turn? Hello? Ah, man, that boy a ghost. And that would happen all the time. I walk around that, I just circle around the block like that. And I'd be a ghost. Sometimes I'd see other people, but for the most part, it would be me and another person, like a female would follow me. Sometimes it seemed like she would be stringing along behind me every time I astral projected. Like, I look back over my shoulder while I was flying through the air, and these bright, like, yellow lights and stuff like that. It's like lights would be carrying us at night. Like, the best way I can describe these lights is like they behave like fairies. They sure didn't look like any humans or actual beings. They were just lights. I mean, they would move around fast, pick you up, and they would just be floating us around the neighborhood for no apparent reason. And sometimes it seemed like it was in and out of other people's apartments. And for the best way to describe it, would look like your ghost would be up at night. Except, obviously, you in that bed sleep, but I could see your ghost. Everybody's ghost. It's like people's ghosts have a second life that nobody knows about. While you're awake and asleep, your ghost is having its own little life that we don't know about. You know, more to learn about that, I guess, from your own research and trying to experience it for yourself. Don't get help in a creepy Frankenstein's way. Astral projections, aliens. I'm a contactee is all there. So this is the 90s. When it gets to the 90s, sightings and the X-Files actually do start coming on TV. So it was the thing to watch sightings in the X-Files during the 90s. You know, and Unsolved Mysteries and all that. America's Most Wanted, all that. You remember all those like prime time like cult TV shows would come on. You just all have to sit as a family and watch them back to back. My favorite part was the X-Files and Sightings, particularly Sightings, because Sightings was showing older people, usually those weird like Gulf Breeze people from down in Florida, saying the same things I was seeing and hearing in the astral plane growing up. But I noticed they were seeing it in like broad daylight, you know, like over the beachfront at night, you know, over the, over the literally the beach walk, you know, down in Gulf Breeze during the 90s. I was seeing it in an astral plane as a child, dating back to from like literally the day I was born, that as far back as I remember. And so in the early 90s, around about the time they started dropping like gangster hip hop, really gangster hip hop music, that's when I started having even weirder dreams about what happened then and what would happen in the future. I'd have dreams that our world was actually two separate worlds. One was a spirit world, which was more, the timeline was different than ours. Just like basically what I learned from it, anytime you go in the spirit world, you actually are ahead of time than we are in this time period. So anyone here is way behind what's going on in the spirit world. But when a spirit comes back to here, they can only relate to people who are behind on everything that has already happened to them. So we are behind the times to the spirits, to the dead. So I started gathering that, and usually in those dreams, there would not be real dreams of a place that actually existed, but it would be more of something that somebody was using to house me in, as I was being housed in a dream environment while I was being shown things by something, a higher power. There's definitely a power that's higher than me. Whenever I get absorbed by this power, it seems like it takes me into itself and I can't get out of it. And it does what it wants with me, but it's nothing creepy or mixed up. It's like it can move me wherever it wants. It can just take me wherever it wants to. It's like I'm in a dream world or the astral plane, and it'll take me right out of that state and show me what all it has to show me, and it'll dump me right back in my body, bedside, asleep. Waking up feeling kind of like, creeped out, but refreshed mysteriously. Is it God? Is it the Holy Spirit? I want to believe that it is. The universe maybe it is God using the Holy Spirit to communicate through. The universe is weird. Is God an alien? So if God's an alien, that means that this alien does not have the Holy Spirit and that he cannot be a divine God or something? What if God is also an alien? Doesn't mean he has to look like a creepy reptile with spikes coming out of his head. But what if God just happened to like to create more stuff, and he decided that pink guys with big black eyes will be among the things he created? And they look like lately I've been comparing these beings that I've been seeing, some of which I'm gonna be honest with you. Let's jump head back to the reptiles because I'm deviating. So let's rush on to about the mid 90s. So I've told you about, I've started watching all this sighting stuff and stuff like that. They show me the time periods were off. So, and that's how they were able to show me. I'm gonna wrap this up because I'm approaching an hour. So basically the gist of these dreams of the time period being offset in the spirit world is that how these beings are able to show us the future is that the future of humanity already happened for them. And yes, the world is gonna flood again. Yes, we are in trouble. A lot of stuff that happened before the flood is already happening again with creepy experiments. My brains are being microwaved, targeted individuals, nukes, genocide, terrorists, you name it. All right, Russia is in the news, pretty pissed off at the United States for the blatant wanting destruction of the entire Middle East, not just parts of it, not to leave out North Africa. Despite the end of the world coming apart and them targeting yet another sitting U.S. president in a totally different manner, let's talk back about the reptiles that I've been seeing. So, the pivotal point of what I got out of all these contacts and dreams that might be important to you is that it's not so much that I'm someone special, is that these beings need to contact people, and they look for people who can be contacted for whatever reason. So you can take that for what it's worth for people who can be contacted. So that's probably doesn't mean a saint. The gist of what I'm getting is we're in trouble. It's gonna fall apart. At some point, these beings were confronted militarily. So basically, at some point in our future, these beings are going to come up against some type of military threat from the ground, if they have not already. And that's what they were just trying to show me. And a lot has happened that has not been told to humanity. And some of what's happening is this secret technology and these secret black budget programs that these men have gone into in secret on this planet. And for all intents and purposes, what these beings have been showing me, that we're in a lot more danger than just dying on this planet. Those beings have figured out how to do things kind of like what those aliens have, but you can imagine humanity is not as advanced. So we have technology advancements that exist outside of the actual practical technological system that they should exist in. So if you can put a person in a soul trap, which might be useful to a super advanced civilization that's millions of years old, but to a 1,000-year-old human civilization, being able to soul trap people using AI and computers somewhere because you've hacked the human brain might consider them Faraday caging human souls in the astral plane, and Faraday caging our heads while we're sleeping at night using Wi-Fi and electronic devices. Yeah, they're infiltrating our brains, man, and these federal agencies have the ability to traverse the imaginal supernatural world. They can project their consciousness into this other world, and they are hostile there too. So if you're having dreams that look like agents are getting into your dreams and attacking you, that's what they're doing. It's not like the Matrix, but it is. Like, so it's not like the Matrix where we're trapped. We're supposed to get into this computerized reality and destroy it because it's the trap. The real world is in the flesh world. It's the reverse. It's like the real world is actually the Matrix, and the flesh world is actually the pits where we're trapped in. And these people have figured out how to keep us from going further than this world, and they keep reincarnating here. So they have a constant supply of people to cycle into human bodies to be used as tools so they can advance themselves independent of the actual civilization that created humanity. And that's what we ran into. There is a group of intelligence on this planet working through human agencies that has its own version of what you might call heaven, hell, and all of that. And it's synthetic, it's technological, and it is designed as a prison. Much like Peggy Kane was saying, what those people will do in this system is, first they will script your life. They'll come up with life events for you. They'll script it. They'll arrange it. They'll make you feel so bad. You're the most horrible sinner on earth. You deserve this punishment. You deserve to die. They'll make other people hate you. They'll harass you. They'll psychically harass you, and you'll start to feel like, once they corner you, like demons and stuff are supposed to be attacking you because you're just horrible. You're not right with God. They'll start talking like they are God and you're not right with them. So that's why the demons, which are also them, are getting to you. And then when you die, they do the same thing because they're there on the other side waiting for you to complete the process of soul trapping you. Yes, we are in that danger. We face that danger too, of soul traps, of these people having been augmented. Ufology could not have done more in the area of negative ufology, because there is a positive extraterrestrial presence and a negative presence which is more or less earthbound rather than extraterrestrial. So our friends that are here are not really extraterrestrial anymore, other than in that they are locked here. So these people that got stuck are pulling out all the stops. They are not caring who they start wars with. They're not caring who gets killed. They're not caring when or how often new diseases get released. They don't give a shit about climate change. They're producing more and better ways to kill you even though the planet is literally going into climate chaos. You know, the planet is now going into climate chaos. The world is literally collapsing around Syria and Iraq for all intents and purposes. And we have a secret group of men who have basically aligned with demonic presences on the earth, which are intellectual and technological, if not by presence, at least in nature. So that's where they draw all of their advancements and understanding from. These corporate criminals are not just corporate criminals. There are also dark mystical forces involved behind these massive financial brokers and corporations and stuff, and all these control groups and conglomerates and scientific think tanks and black budget military agencies. All of this stuff works together. They're gonna create their utopian world of what happens when you become advanced, and this is what they're gonna use. If you want a world of Monsanto, GMOs, GMO people, GMO psychic augments and gifts, genetically modified, human transhumanism, gender confused, socially traditionally confused, one size fits all religion, one size fits all culture, politics, political system, education, synchronized education. Everybody has to be social on social media. Everybody has to have a digitized thought process. Everybody has to be mentally wired to the internet. Everybody's soul has to be, you know, contained within the system so that it does not get out and go to these other beings that created us, because this system needs you more than they do. Wow. So would you sell out with a bunch of sellouts that got stuck on the earth and cannot leave just so you can advance with these people advancements because it sounds and looks good on TV? And be careful what you're being brainwashed by, because Independence Day 2, if not part 1, is no less than a blatant social brainwashing episode in order to get these people ready for them to bust out all that technology they developed in secret, which they are finna go ahead and bring out. And notice how it looked just like our stuff now. Still has the U.S. Air Force insignia. Still has its marking numbers and stuff like that. Except it looks like it has futuristic technology incorporated into the design. Now these jets that they've been hiding in these Area 51 style black budget facilities that nobody knows about, these black triangles and black helicopters, everybody's finna see what they do. But in order to see what they do, what do they need? They need someone like Russia or North Korea to go ahead and push the final button of war that leads to them busting out Ronald Reagan's little dream of a space defense space defense initiative. Nobody told Ronald Reagan that if he approved and funded this program, that he just basically gave the okie doke okay to fucking the military industrial complex to turn into the Men in Black instead. The Men in Black is basically what happens when the CIA controls basically the military and technology development for the military. And you can imagine that they're, you know, with scientists on board with this DARPA and stuff, and all these advanced people like Raytheon and Boeing and Lockheed Martin. Yeah, they're finna bust out the grid full force, and it might come tumbling down on fire around them. So, like I said, man, if put it like this, if we don't change on this side before I close out this video, from what I gather, the beings that are good can't help us on the other side. You have to live an examined life. You have to change now before you die, because once you die, that's it, man. Like, change now. If they can't help you on this side, if you're not reachable here, they won't be able to pull you out on that side. So you'll be a sitting duck to those people that Peggy Kane was talking about, David Icke was talking about. So this is Don't Mention the Reptiles, just me rambling over a whole bunch of stuff that I gathered about my dream. So my dreams are not listed in chronological order here. So take everything with a grain of salt. Thanks.